Hello friends, I'm Kayla. It's time for the vlog that everybody wants, where I just read whatever I want. But of course, I have to gamify it. So I have this bingo board of everything that I love to read about. There are all of these varied categories, and the white ones are ones that I've checked off in videos already. I started this series last year. All the elements that I seek out in books. I most want to read these things. This is what I want to be reading. And it just so happens that my TBR shelf is full of books that I want to read, and most of them fit one or more of these categories. So today I have a bingo, what is this called? Spinner? A bingo caller? Or am I the bingo caller? I've never been to bingo. Each ball represents one of my specifications that I like to read, and I'm going to pull 3 things. I'm gonna read 3 books in this vlog. I believe there are 9 squares remaining, so either we'll have to do this 3 times throughout the next 2 months, or I will continue to fill out the bingo board in like side videos and just hope that I can fill it out by the end of the year. But today we're gonna focus on 3 things. Now, obviously bingo has 5 rows. I only have 4. So I had to make each column be B-I-N-G, and then each of the numbers represents a different box. So this is a quick rundown that really doesn't matter, but if I get a B, it's in the first column. If it's a single digit, so from 1 to 9, I pick books about books. If it's a double digit, which would be from 10 to 15, and then I have to read a book about death. In the I column, I have 3 to fill out still. So I runs from 16 to 30. If it starts with a 1, I'm gonna do mixed media. If it starts with a 2, the ball, I'm gonna do nature. And if it starts with 3, I'm gonna choose the magic one. Now I know it's most likely to start with a 2 because 16 to 30 mostly is in the 20s. And I did that specifically because I am most interested in the nature one. And I think I could fill out mixed media and magic in other videos. So the balls are still in here, but I have leaned the likelihood into things that I'm more likely to like. For the N column, I just split all 3 of them into equal parts. There's 5 balls for each. Weddings are from 31 to 35. Unfamiliar circumstances, 36 to 40. Women's love prevailing from 41 to 45. And then if I end up with a G, it's only topical memoir because that's the only thing in that column I haven't completed. I don't care about specifically completing a bingo in this video. The entire thing right now is supposed to be a blackout bingo. Without further ado, angle 1, angle 2. Let's see what we get. There's our first ball. Our second and our third. It came out so fast. Okay, the first one here looks like it's N45, which is going to be, oh, women's love prevailing. Okay, I don't know which book I'm gonna pick for that. The second ball, let's see what it is. That says B2. B2 is a single digit, so books about books. And I do have one in mind for that I'm interested to read. I know I have quite a few on my TBR, but there's one that I'm excited to read. In the final ball, we've got G46. Like I said, it doesn't matter. The G's are all the same. I only have one thing, topical memoir. Wait, this is so perfect. Women's love prevailing most is represented on my TBR by fantasy. And then the book about books that I want to read is a romance. And then the topical memoir obviously is nonfiction. So we've got 3 different genres already decided. All 3 of the books I think I'm about to pick are the ones that I just hauled in my most recent vlog and said, these all fit in my bingo board. Luck is on my side this year. I'm telling you, maybe my ratings haven't been incredible, but like, the universe is just working with me. I have been absolutely itching to get to female fantasy for the last couple weeks. Like literally since the day I bought it, I was like, I need to read this, but I need a video to put it in because I just have such a good feeling about this one and I want to read it with you and tell you all of my thoughts. It's about this woman and she works in copywriting as her day job, but she writes fan fiction on the side. And there is a book inside the book. I'm not sure if it's different colored pages too. They're slightly tinted. I'm not sure if it's the real book in her universe or if it's her fan fiction that we're reading, but she has fallen in love with this mermaid main character in a book that she's reading. And she finds out the author based him on a real person in her real life. So our main character decides to go meet that man because she thinks they might be soulmates. But I think before she can actually go through with that, she falls in love with her brother's best friend. So that's gonna be my pick for a book about books. And then my memoir one, I love nonfiction books that incorporate the author's real life, but also give education about something. And this one, Uncanny Valley Girl, says essays on horror, survival, and love. She was in a psych ward at one point in her life, and she turned to horror movies. And some of my favorite horror movies are even listed in the description, which is what made me want to pick this up to begin with. I was going to do a whole video about horror nonfiction this year, and I just don't have time for it. But next year, once I have a few more under my belt, I will do a recommendation video. And then for women's love prevailing, I think I'm gonna go with The Isle in the Silver Sea. At this point, this Tasha Suri hasn't been getting the most incredible ratings from people, but I still want to pick it up. And it's about a witch and something else, a knight, that are fated to fall in love in every one of their timelines, but there's a reason why they can't be together. But of course, their love's gonna prevail. I literally bought all of these in the same day, and I was planning on picking them for these categories. I just didn't know that they would be the categories I picked for this bingo specific video that I was gonna make first. That's so wild that that just happened. These are also all 2025 releases that maybe you're interested in, and I can tell you if they're worth it or not. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm gonna start with this one for sure. Not to be dramatic, but the sun setting at 4 p.m. this year is gonna ruin my life. Like, it's not the vibe, and I don't think I can deal with it. I feel like I've got everything in check, and I can't take something ruining my day every day like this. And I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think I need to leave the country. Vlog idea, flying to somewhere warm and reading books there. Second option, less expensive, reading books about summer, so I'm less depressed about the weather. This weekend, I have to drive to Vancouver. I've never driven on the Coquihalla in the snow, and I'm really not looking forward to it. But I got my snow tires on, and I got studs in them. I haven't had studs since I had the Yaris, and that will give me a sense of security. But they're so loud because there's no snow yet. The studs aren't doing their job. They're just like making the loudest noise possible when I drive down the street. What's boosting my day though? Female fantasy. I am 69 pages in, and I love it. And the last time I read a romance and I said this early, this feels like a 5-star, and I can't believe I'm saying that, I was correct. So I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna put it into the universe. I love this. I think this is gonna be the book for me. And we haven't even met the love interest. I think my fear with picking up a book like this, it sounds like it's gonna be a little too quirky and a little too goofy, but thank goodness, the book is very self-aware, and it's given us a main character who is well into adulthood and who has had many experiences. Not that following any different type of protagonist would be a problem, but I think in this capacity, just following perhaps a young girl and she's never been in a relationship and she's like, oh my god, I love this book character, I'm gonna stalk this man who might be similar to him. That could have given me the ick very easily, but I do trust what the author is going to do with this storyline, considering what we've gotten in the last 69 pages. Oh, I also tried out the audiobook because I forgot I got the, one of the only times this entire year I used NetGalley, I requested the audiobook of this and I got it really late. And I have a new favorite audiobook narrator. I don't even know her name, but I love listening to her voice. And she's embodying this character so well and is giving the proper tongue-in-cheek kind of vibe to it. I'll give you a little taste, okay?
I walk, honestly more like saunter, into kebabs and bits on Sunday night to find Nico and Oliver huddled in a corner, talking about sports or politics or whatever else guys talk about when they're alone. The former barely looks up to heckle me for being late. Well, it's true that I'm tardy by American standards. 15 minutes, give or take. I'm actually early according to Persian Standard Time, PST. Nico just needs to hate on me regularly.
Okay, that's at 1.5. I don't know if that's everybody's preference, but she has her voice kind of reminds me of Mandy Moore. There's just a little like lilt. Lilt? Is that the right word? I don't even think I know what lilt means. A characteristic rising and falling of the voice when speaking. A pleasant, gentle accent. Sure. The way you can see my phone glowing on my face is how you can tell it is starting to get dark outside. Because I feel like when I just sit here, you can't actually tell. But like, it's dark outside. See? Now you can see how dark my room is. Don't look at me in this lighting. Oh my god. How dare you? The narrator is Samantha Brentmore. Our main character's name is Junie, and she's obsessed with Reich, who is this merman in this fictional book series. It is the actual book series we're getting to read, and I want this whole book. I want to know everything about this woman and this man because the little bits we're getting I like so much. So she, like a lot of romantic kind of books, is about a woman who's in a relationship or not really happy in life, and she learns of this new world where she could be happy and there's this perfect man. And Junie, our protagonist, reading the book, it gave her a sense of like possibility that somebody out there could love every part of her and she doesn't have to make herself small or quiet or easy or like everybody else to be loved. She wants to be her true authentic self, and the people that she's dated, and there's even been long-term relationships that we've explored that she has been in, didn't give her everything that she needed, and so she struggled through various portions of expressing herself and feeling loved. She's going on all of these dates and it feels very rom-com because there's this one place she regularly goes on dates. It's a bakery and the people who work there know her so well that they let her like escape through the kitchen. It just feels like this could so easily be a movie. The little town she lives in is called Mystic. There's been subtle little indications of people's political affiliations, and we have a cast of diverse characters. She just went on this first date and the guy called her exotic and then asked where she was really from, and she very quickly, left. She wants to be open. She's willing to put herself out there, but not give anybody very much time if they don't seem like they're going to be the perfect match for her, and she's protecting her peace. She used to have a thing for her brother's best friend, Nico. And now that she just learned that the author based this guy in the book on a real guy, she wants to go meet him, not in a stalkerish way, but obviously there is a little, there is something wrong with this. And I think she's maybe gonna go on like a road trip and that friend is going to tag along. I'm not really sure where it's going, but we ended with a fantastic quote. She said, "Look, I'm not an idiot. I fully understand that Ryan and Reich are not one and the same. I mean, the latter is more fish than man, for fuck's sake, and nothing drives me further up the wall than when people, especially straight cisgender white men, act like romance readers can't differentiate between reality and fiction. It's beyond condescending and totally misogynistic. We all know they only say this because women are the main consumers of the genre. Like, would those same men accuse thriller lovers of being more likely to murder their friends and family? Probably not. Not to mention the double standard. Tons of fantasy and sci-fi franchises with majority male audiences feature incredibly graphic sex, but no one is accusing fans of George R. R. Martin of being brainwashed, you know? There's nothing more frustrating than having to constantly defend the merits of romance to naysayers. Women, especially marginalized people, deserve more credit, period. We're not frivolous and delusional." But obviously it's also easy to think, he's just this man of a sea of thousands and millions of men in this country. Maybe he could, because he has similar attributes to a book character that I like. Maybe we could be destined, so maybe we'll just stumble upon each other if I'm in his town and we can fall in love naturally. So that's the initial setup. I'm not gonna completely spoil everything that goes down in here, but I think that gives a good idea of how the book's gonna go, if you might want to pick it up. And I'm excited to check in with you halfway to see how it's going. If I still feel really good about it, I think I will. I am more than halfway through at this point and still really liking it. It's gotten really adventurous, which I wasn't expecting. It feels like a rom-com still. These people have gotten in a difficult, dangerous situation and they're trying to get out of it, and it's meeting up with various people. I feel like occasionally getting a little cheesy as opposed to campy. I'm still having a great time, and it really takes skill to have a story within a story that is just as strong, and to know how much to put in there and not have it be too heavy-handed with what a lot of books do, which is having the real life narrative perfectly reflecting what's happening in the book. That gets old really fast to me when it's the characters are learning lessons that the main characters in the books are at the same time. It's not really like that, though the stakes are ramping up equally in both storylines, which does feel appropriate. It still feels like it's gonna get a high rating, maybe not a 5 anymore. Okay, I finished Female Fantasy. Drum roll, please. I'm giving it a 4.25. There was so much I liked about this, even just the inclusion of booksellers and their importance in your life, and how they are so good at, can be so good at recommending you exactly what you need at a certain point in your life. And that just changed our main character's perspective on life, getting that one book recommendation and getting her into reading to begin with a certain genre she might not have been open to exploring. You all know I love a heavy-handed theme, so that's something this definitely had. You could tell from the quote that I shared with you, there's regular moments like that where she is challenging people and just society on certain ideals and how she wants to confront those things and how she feels like she needs to challenge how she's perceived and how women are perceived and how the romance genre is perceived, and plenty of other like associated themes alongside that. The tone was pretty much perfect for me. It was definitely rom-com-y. It was a little over the top. It was silly, the scenarios that they got into. I don't know if it pushed the satire as much as I wanted. I think it could have been a little even more self-aware with regular winks to the reader and like feel really just even wackier. But instead it hit a lot of the typical romance beats, which was perfect for what it was, and I think what a lot of people would be looking for. I think the majority of romance readers, I imagine, would rate this like a 3.754. It was rom-com, it was lighthearted for the most part, but there was still moments where they had really important conversations. There was a miscommunication moment, there was sentimental conversations, there was realizations they made about each other, and at the heart of it, like the goal she was going to accomplish, it kind of went the exact way I expected it to, in a good way. I liked that everyone was imperfect. I like that he had to make some gestures towards her. There was a steamy scene that was very good. Also a steamy scene in the fantasy story. I wasn't swooning over this relationship as much as I wanted to. I could have used maybe 50 more pages to just give me a little more evidence of like how incredible he is, and also the main character in the book that she's reading, because the author, whose name I don't think I've actually said, Iman Hariri Kia, she had to be very selective about which types of excerpts she needed to put in here, because we had to actually be able to follow the story and the plot and the politics that were happening in this fantasy world. And so there wasn't really that much room for the romance, and that's what we know our main character to be obsessed with. And so because it wasn't solely that, I would have wanted a little bit more of that. More just epic moments between both couples for me would have brought it to a 5. I really enjoyed this. Happy to have read it. Would definitely recommend. And now I'm moving on to, I've already started, Uncanny Valley Girls. Let me grab it. I can't remember in what context I heard of this book, but it's so funny because I cracked it open and I started reading. I actually just saw the title of the first chapter, The Girl, the Well, and the Ring, and I was like, that is so familiar. I swear I read an essay about this topic called that same thing in my favorite essay collection, It Came from the Closet. Turns out that essay is from this author, and so maybe that's why I heard about this to begin with. Maybe it was, you know, when you go to Goodreads and there's that section, if you don't know about it, I'm about to change your life. It's a drop down, I'll put it here, I don't remember what it's called, but you can go to upcoming books, and if you go to authors that are on your shelves, it'll show you any book in the next like 5 months, it seems, from any author that you have on any of your shelves. So maybe that's where I originally saw it, and I was like, oh, an essay collection about horror. Like, that's something that I've loved before. So let me take a moment to recommend this to you. It does spoil a lot of horror movies, but if you're deep into horror culture, 100% recommend, because it's so many different classic movie villains and just movies in general and how people relate it to their queer identity. And one of my favorites in here, I had to double check. I was like, okay, so I've read this before. Hopefully I loved it. And it was one of the ones in here that I gave a 5. I gave so many 5s. And so I just reread it in here. And now I have this whole essay collection that I'm assuming I'm going to love, because I've read from Zephyr Lesowski before. And that one talked a lot about disability and illness and how we treat people. So again, just like this collection, this is spoiling things. It talks about The Ring. The next one spoiled Black Swan and then Dark Water. And now I'm into the one about Scream. And it's not so much about the movies. It is definitely more memoir than nonfiction, or however like you would decipher these genres from one another. It's not an educational material the way that I feel like this is deep diving into a movie, how it affected the author's life, but also how it had an impact on culture. This one is more Zephyr's life story and then a sprinkling of how the movies impacted her in those moments. And I would say maybe like one line from each essay has something to do, like some type of informative thing about the movie itself. Like, oh, this director went on to do this. This person was fired from the set of this because of this. So I would still say it's an informative memoir, but more memoir than information. So that's where I'm at, 50 pages in. And I'll check in with you at the end and let you know what my favorites were, what my takeaways are. It's actually crazy how many topics and themes and movies we got mentioned in 200 pages. I was very often confronted with a lot of difficulties that this author has gone through and how they relate it to horror movies. Some more so than others, just like what I said about It Came From the Closet, feel like the horror movie came first and then she built this experience around it, like how she wanted to tell the story of her life. And then some of them felt like it was just an essay on her life and she needed to like pluck a horror movie to kind of throw in there. And that's exactly how I felt about that collection. Is sometimes it felt like the authors were given like a prompt and they had to pick a movie and they already had like this essay they wanted to write, and so they just kind of shoehorned it in. I don't think it's fair of me to say I wish it was more about the movies, because it is exactly as pitched, like it's a memoir first. And I liked going through all the movies. I didn't learn anything. I didn't tab a single thing, but there was plenty of information shared and opinion based and fact based. So like with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is one of my favorite personal horror movies, it was touched on, and the remake and how remakes function and how people responded to the differences and what was so incredible about the original. There was lots of talk about different cultures' response to violence and fear, and political responses to horror and how horror reflects the political climate. There was an essay that referenced ginger snaps, another one of my favorites, a real introduction to horror for me, and how it reflected puberty and fear and violence and blood and all of this stuff. And as this kicks off, it says the author was locked in a psych ward. You can imagine all of the things that she's has navigated in her life. We're talking about self-harm. We're talking about eating disorders, a lot of sexual assault, transphobia, ableism. And then also what I didn't know is the author growing up in Elizabeth City and talking about what you might expect, like the murder of Andrew Brown Jr. and their reaction to that and commentary around that. I do think the collection toed the line for being triggering, not just mentioning stuff that could be harmful, but got quite detailed regarding self-harm and sexual assaults. And there was even a moment where she was saying, I can't remember exactly what it was, but she was saying, like, I don't want this section to be triggering. I don't want to go into too much detail. But at the same time, I think it kind of did. But this is a collection about horror, and it's talking about all of these brutal horror scenes. So it makes sense that the horrors of reality would also be woven into here. I did say at the beginning of the year, I wasn't going to rate memoirs. And so that actually makes me feel better in this moment, because I wasn't sure what I was going to rate this. It's like one of those, I appreciate it, but I didn't gain exactly what I wanted. But at the same time, rating someone's life story feels so weird. Anyway, it's very late. And the reason why is I've actually been attempting to read the third book for hours now, and I'm not sure what to do. So the reason some of these are in the bingo board is I love books about books because I love books, and I love authors who love books, and I love characters who love books, and I like getting an insight into like the publishing industry, or I like a book inside a book a lot of times, not always. The reason that I put informative memoir is because I love learning about stuff, and I just think the mix of real life and commentary, especially about media, is something that's really interesting. So I do seek those things out a lot. The reason that I have Women's Love Prevails, I think I just like stories about love prevailing against all odds anyway. The idea that people are fighting against everything to be together. And then I just love sapphic relationships and sapphic books. And that's why The Jasmine Throne was originally recommended to me by Tasha Suri. I ended up giving that 3 stars, but I recommend it a lot because I think people do love it. I just gave it a 3. And so putting this on my TBR was with the prediction that because I liked that enough, the next thing would be absolutely fantastic. I'm having such a hard time getting into this. I got to page, I want to say it was 70, and then I restarted the book and I did the first 70 pages again. And then I tried the audiobook and I think I got to page 100, and then I realized I wasn't really paying that close of attention, I guess, or I'm just not in the mindset to read an epic fantasy right now. We started out with a map. We had the tale of the knight and the witch, and then we got like a letter, and then we kicked off the story, both perspectives of this knight and this witch and how they're coming together in every lifetime until the end of time, until their story is complete. And I just don't think I can do a 500-page fantasy right now, and I didn't know that this is the mindset I would be in. I think I might try again tomorrow, but I really don't know. So I'm trying to think of what other books I could swap in, because like I didn't pull the book out of the bingo collar. The bingo nest, cage, bingo cage? Maybe that's what it's called. I pulled the theme, not the book. So there are a couple other 2025 releases. I know there's Fate's Bane, there's Iridescence, I want to say. The Maiden and Her Monster is another one. That's been getting quite poor reviews from the people who I often align with. I could do This Vicious Hunger. Those are all fantasy though, and I don't know if I should try out a different fantasy, but I don't just want to read a contemporary romance. So maybe I could do something like paranormal adjacent, like The Devil She Knows, but I don't necessarily know if any of these books, even though I know they're about women's love, I don't know if it's about women's love prevailing specifically. I think I'm going to try out these two before I go to bed. If neither of them do it for me, then I'll try out some other things, and in the morning I'll just let you know where my head is at. I really did not know that this was going to be the book that I went with, but when I started it, I realized that it's something that I really love to read lately, and it was already on my TBR. I'm reading The Devil She Knows. I've read from Alexandra Bellafleur before. I gave her, I want to say it was a 4, maybe it was a 3.75, and I found it a little cheesy, a little Disney, but that works in this context and with this book, because I love stories where characters are getting to like relive moments of their life or different realities, and figuring out what they want out of life and what they deserve. And I didn't even know that's what this book was. It was just on my TBR for the year because I've read from the author before. I knew it was queer, and it was about a woman making a deal with the devil to get her ex-girlfriend back. Like, that's the only pitch that I knew. So when I was starting a couple books last night, I was really surprised by this one, because she meets this devil, a demon, in an elevator, and the demon offers her 6 wishes. And basically she's going to transport her into these different realities where she can live out a reality in which she is the perfect partner for her ex-girlfriend. So we have Samantha, our main character, her ex-girlfriend's name, Hannah? I think it was Hannah. I sampled the audiobook with my last remaining hours for the month on Spotify, and Rob's currently out picking me up a copy because he has to go to a doctor's appointment. Well, he just went to two doctor's appointments in one morning. Because I think the reason actually that my mind wasn't fully engaged last night is because it's just elsewhere, because Rob got hurt at work yesterday. He fell and he really fucked up his ankle. It's not broken, confirmed, but he's going to get crutches, and we're leaving tomorrow for a trip. So I think there's just kind of like a lot going on. And he's right now filling out a bunch of like workers' comp paperwork, and obviously he's just not feeling well, so I'm distracted validly. But while he is out, he's gonna pick me up my book from just like the curbside pickup, which is so very nice. I don't love the audiobook because I think the devil character Daphne is being read a little too like Disney villain to me, and I think if I were just reading her words on my own, it wouldn't be as cheesy. But I got hooked into the audiobook. Rob went to bed and I stayed up until 1 a.m. listening, and I think I'm like 30% of the way through, and we've gotten these 2 different realities. So she makes these wishes and then the demon fulfills it, but obviously she's the devil, so she is messing with her. It feels very bedazzled, and the demon is there all the time. Our main character doesn't think she's good enough, and she wants to make herself the perfect person for her former partner who just broke up with her. She thought they were on this great path, but it turns out her partner was not fully happy in the relationship. And so Samantha's like, okay, well, everything that Hannah, I think it's Hannah, has complained about me in this relationship over the years, which like, let me fix all of these things. So at first she was like, I want to have all the money so I can treat this girl as well as I possibly can, and maybe she'll love me more if I'm rich. And like, we all know the direction of the story. It's definitely going to be that expected growth storyline of realizing that she wasn't the problem all along. But so the demon puts her in a scenario where sure, she's rich, but she's actually a mob boss, and the police are after her. And so she's like, okay, let me try this second reality. And I guess in the background, like Samantha and Daphne, the devil, are going to eventually end up together because this is a romance, but Samantha is having these regular interactions and communications with a character we're not necessarily liking. I think that's why a lot of readers might not be into this one, but because I have loved things like Love of My Afterlife and All This and More this year, this just really fits into this group of books that have this similar vibe and intent behind them, with how the character is growing and figuring out what they want and that they are perfect and capable. And I just love that even when it's silly. So I'm about to go do reading sprints with my channel members, and I might have to read something else. And then once Rob gets home with my book, I can continue that later on tonight. In one of my last vlogs, you might remember Rob brought home cookies from this local place, and he, while he was there, ate a croissant cookie but didn't bring one home to share. And so this time he did, and it was delicious. I like it better than the cookies. And as I was eating my croissant cookie, they were making croissants in the book. So me and this book and the croissant were just meant to be. I am still liking this a lot. There are constant references that are just very fun, where they're making devil's food cake, because, you know, it's the devil, just various things like that. Liam just asked if I can drive another child home. Let me clean up my vehicle. And at this point, we are getting more about the relationship between the two women, because one of them's going to eventually move on. And they're having more sentimental conversations, grappling with the lives that they've lived. They both are jaded, I guess, by love and life, and that's what's gonna connect them. I don't really care about their romance, which is kind of a disappointing feeling to feel, because it is a romance book, and I just wish it was more like the fun, the living different lives and seeing what can happen. Can I show them your leg?
Sure.
Look how good I wrapped it up. I'll show you under the bandage too, because I know you're all curious. I guess he went to the doctor, and the doctor said that's definitely broken. And then he was like, inspecting it, and he was like, just kidding. First thing I want to say upon finishing this is I didn't mention why they were, I guess I don't need to mention why they were, did I say eating croissants or baking croissants? Either way, it's because she, the main character, Samantha, wasn't that the main character of the first book I read for this vlog too? She's a chef, and I love all the chefy stuff and the work-related conversations, so that was something I really enjoyed. Second thing I wanted to mention, unrelated to the book, but the challenge, I realized I need to flip the colors, because I was leaving the ones I hadn't done as black, and when I'm talking about doing a blackout bingo board, I need to turn them black once I do them. So it's now flipped, and now there are 6 white remaining that I need to complete by the end of the year. Even though, interestingly, this book I feel like would fit into some of the other categories, like people dropped into unfamiliar circumstances, because when she gets these other realities, she doesn't get any context into what her life is, and she just has to kind of fact gather to figure out her new life in each scenario. I wish there were more scenarios, and I wish it kind of went on like that and it wasn't a love story. So I don't know how to rate this, because it's a romance and I didn't care about the romance, and that's exact same thing I said about the last Alexandria Bella Fleur, that I didn't like the romance itself and the relationship, but I liked everything else going on. I thought it was perfectly paced. I thought the balance of like life versus friends versus work versus the romance were perfectly done. But I don't know if I can give it more than a 3.75. I think that has to be my rating. I am going to keep this book because it's near a 4 and I'm happy to have it on my shelves. I love having like a sapphic, a queer book to recommend to people. And I'm loving this balance of realistic fiction with a little speculative stuff. What I will say is there's no tension and banter, which I see a lot of reviewers mention in their reviews. And I just completely disagree. We have one character who's very naive and insecure and meek. And we have one character who is really flirtatious and intense, but I wouldn't say there's banter. There's not equal back and forth, like, yeah, there's no banter. And then suddenly there's just a flip. Like Samantha goes from the realization, I don't think this is a spoiler. Like it can't be a spoiler, it's on the back. Goes from the realization that her and her ex aren't meant to be together. And in fact, she's interested in Daphne literally within like one page. And then suddenly it's all about their relationship, but it's for such a short amount of time, but it gets really sentimental. And like, I love objectively that they have this connection, but I don't feel anything towards them. And then as soon as they decide they have feelings for each other, like it's not fun anymore. And it was so fun. Like one of the realities that she lived, there was something to do with her cooking and a competition. Like I was having so much fun at the beginning of this. I think the journey we went on, the arc for the character is the exact one I expected. It didn't do anything like outside of the box, but I really did like the plot of this. I just do not care about their romantic entanglement, which is definitely disappointing. We're ending the video with a 3.75. I ticked off 3 of my boxes. I know they're not specifically tropes, but I am labeling this video as like reading my favorite tropes because I don't know what else to name it. And we'll see if I can get those last 6 in the last 6 weeks of reading that I have for the year. If you have any books in mind that you think I would like or on my TBR or are coming out soon, let me know. Bye.